Hello everyone, it's Editing Ivy here. I wanted to give a quick little introduction to this episode 3 of What Would You Do? Occult Edition. So you can find episode 1 and 2. I just created a playlist on the homepage of my YouTube channel so people can go there and watch previous episodes because this series has received such an amazing response from everyone. So we have decided that we are going to continue doing this every 2 months. So every 2 months you can expect another episode of What Would You Do? And for those brand new to this series, it will all be explained momentarily when I actually show the footage from our spellwork panel. But this has received such a good response that I have received numerous emails, DMs on Instagram, which I don't even check my Instagram DMs because they're too overwhelming, referrals and recommendations from other creators, and just so many people that are wanting to be part of this. I'm so grateful for all the interest and all the support in this series, but it has been really crazy to try to navigate. So we had long conversations in our group chat of how we wanted to do this moving forward while still keeping diversity, because diversity is the goal in this panel. We want to showcase magical practitioners from all over the world doing a bunch of different things. So we are implementing kind of a rotational system. So you'll see some familiar faces from episode 1 and 2, but then there's lots of new faces as well, and we're going to try to rotate in new people with each episode. And it also just kind of depends on when everyone's available. It's incredibly difficult scheduling these panels with this many people all over the world in all different time zones. For example, we had one person in this panel today that is from Australia that had to stay up until 2 in the morning in order to be part of this panel. I myself had to wake up at 6 a.m. in order to get ready for this panel, and we were all very sleep deprived. There's someone else that worked overnights, worked 13 hours, took a 2-hour nap, and then got on to do this panel. Okay, so we are all making massive sacrifices to make the scheduling work because the scheduling is just the most difficult part. But I have to say, this episode 3 is the best one yet. The conversations that we had were so good, and things just keep getting better, and I'm so excited for this series. I hope that you continue to enjoy this spellwork panel because it is here to stay and it has become a thing. So without further ado, here is episode 3. Welcome to What Would You Do? Occult Edition. This is a diverse panel of occult practitioners answering prompts on what they would do for any given magical situation. The rules of the game are as follows. Each practitioner has 3 minutes to deliver their answer. When there is 1 minute left, I, Ivy Corvus, will hold up these feathers. When the practitioner's time is up, I will hold up this crystal wand to signify that we are moving on to the next person. The next rule is that no answers are to be repeated. Even if multiple practitioners have the same advice for what they would do, if the advice has already been given and the practitioner cannot add anything new to the conversation, they must wait until the next question. For all magical scenarios that are given, we will assume that all mundane steps have been taken to rectify the situation prior to resorting to any sort of spellwork or ritual. Now that the rules have been established, let's introduce our players. Starting with Lucas, do you want to tell us just kind of who you are, where people can find you, what you practice, like what your speciality is as far as adding diversity to the panel?
Sure. Hey, name's Lucas. I go by the Devil's Advocate on TikTok, Instagram, just about everywhere. I focus on kind of a blend between ceremonial magic, specifically like the grimoire tradition, but then also blend it with a contemporary left-hand path approach. So my practice is a lot about just balancing dualities between like dark, angel, demon, that sort of thing.
My name is Justin. I'm the Witch of Enchantment, and my practice is really chaotic, folkloric, and heavily influenced by Catholicism. And I just lovingly refer to myself as your neighborhood basic witch bitch. So that's me.
Hi, everyone. My name's Owlvine. It is ridiculously early in the morning right now. I'm so excited to be here with all these amazing witches. My practice is very folk. There is, after having some recent discussions with friends, there is a lot of chaotic, if you will, elements in there as well. I like to get really creative with my magic. I am a magical teacher as well. I have been for almost 8 years now, which is crazy. So I predominantly work with a lot of new witches, and I work on a lot of the issues that kind of we're going to talk about today, which was cool. So a lot of them, even if I don't practice in my own practice, I've sort of had experience with some other people as well. So I love practical magic. That's what I'm all about.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy, and my magical crafting on YouTube is my channel. I would consider myself first art witch and an artist and a maker. And secondary, probably either folk or chaos witch. And yeah, I'm happy to be here for my second panel.
I think it's my turn. I am AB. My channel is AB Witch Journal. I do not have a label. I have been jumping back and forth with labels. I like to say I'm just a practitioner. I'm definitely studying and learning more magic like every day. When people say I'm not a witch 24/7, I am. That's what I do. That's what I love. But my approach definitely is focused on my culture, my country, my origins. I'm from Venezuela, so I like to take a very Venezuelan mixed approach towards my practice. So yeah, that's who I am.
Hey guys, I'm Aurora with Lavender Hazelwood Witches. I'm primarily a solitary eclectic with an emphasis on green and hedge witchery. I'm passionate about animals, so you'll see a lot of that thrown into the mix in terms of what you find on my channel.
Hello, everyone. I am Aradia, formerly known as the Witch of Dark Light. I changed that recently because I don't like labels pretty much, but I'm pretty eclectic and chaotic. And I mentor and am a spiritual counselor, and I kind of work with both sides of things, infernal and celestial. So that's me.
Hey everyone, my name is Sanhre. I am the host of the Order of Chaos podcast and head teacher at the Order of Chaos Mystery School. I practice and I'm involved in developing a branch of theistic chaos magic, and I really focus on the intersection of science and magic.
Hi everyone, my name is Bente. I'm the Norse Witch. Thank you for having me back again. I am from northern Germany, and my practice is mostly low magic inspired by pre-Christian Scandinavia and more contemporary Scandinavian folk magic, and it's also extremely bioregional.
Hi, my name is Frankie. I'm also known as Chaotic Witch Aunt. I am a Italian-American folk practitioner and a folk witch. I tend to have a practice focused a lot on land spirits, plant medicine, and my ancestors, with some pre-Christian things mixed in, as well as a lot of Catholicism. Yeah.
Hey folks, my name is Astra. I am a Solomonic ceremonial magician with a focus on the grimoire tradition, and so that's mainly what you'll hear me talking about today.
Astra's so sweet and to the point. I love it. Just short, ready to go. I am your local chaos magician. No, there's a couple of us that have a chaos flair, but I am a chaos magician through and through. You will often find me paradigm jumping into literally everything that possibly exists because I live for the ecstasy of ritual. So that is my introduction. But okay, let's get started. I've got a dice here. All right, so our first prompt is going to be prompt number 4. A friend's house is haunted and they have asked for your help. What kind of help would you offer and what would you do?
All right, I think I was the first one. All right, so first of all, I think I would go in and try to like make contact with the spirit and try to figure out what its deal is. Like, does that spirit really have a problem? Is it really like evil? Does it really hurt someone? Or is it just like disturbed by something? Or does the friend who lives there do something that's bothering the spirit? And apart from that, the spirit is like a nice, friendly one. So I would try to figure out what its deal is, and yeah, try to figure out if I actually have to like remove it or if I can just like befriend it, help it. You never know what its problem is. And of course, like if there's just something that is bothering the spirit and it's easily removable or changeable, then I would of course help do that so that the spirit can also live on happily alongside the friend so that they can have like a nice little friendship. But if I would end up figuring out that the spirit is actually out to harm someone or is in some way like not befriendable, I would call it, then I would try to remove it. Either I would like put up a spirit trap somewhere and try to trap it in there like a witch broom, like these bristly things that grow on birch trees, for example, or like a hagstone or something like that, where the spirit would be trapped in. I could also see like washing the floors and windows and doors with water from a north running stream, for example, or a sacred well or something, and then removing the water that I was using at a crossroads, or using incense made from juniper, angelica root, stinging nettle, valerian root, and camphor. I think that would be what I would do.
All right. So when it comes to talk about hauntings, this is my issue, and I mean, many people in this channel do know that I'm not necessarily the person with the bigger gifts at the time to connect with the spirits. But the first question that I will ask to the spirit is your haunting coming from a negative mindset, or are you just here? My mentality with the spirits is that spirits are everywhere. Now, if I do have to spiritually remove an entity from an space, I simply utilize two elements, a Solomonic seal and graveyard dirt. In my country, graveyard dirt attracts spirits that are not in a graveyard. Also, there are other complications as well. Like in Venezuela, you say that in order for you to capture a spirit, you need to have graveyard dust or where the body is buried in, if the body is buried, because that also might be a cause of why the spirit has some sort of unrest, or the actual bones of it. So if that's my mentality, that's what I will do. If I have to move a spirit that is negatively affecting a space, I will utilize a Solomonic seal and graveyard dust, just dirt, put it on top of the seal. I will be doing, I think that it was the Our Father. And then I will do a song of the spirit that when was alive, if like a song that did like to the spirit to attract them to the dust. Take the dust out, put them on a bottle, and bury it somewhere else. That will be it. Very, yeah. That.
Okay, I think I was next. I hope this is in order. So I wanted to say that I'd probably, before anything, do what Benta did and check to make sure if the house was actually haunted. But the first thing that I would jump to is like a folk exorcism, which is different. And I like to delineate between an exorcism and a folk exorcism, because an exorcism can only be done by the Catholic Church, technically, if we're talking by the Catholic standards. So a folk exorcism can be done by anyone and includes similar things. You'd be bringing in holy water. For me, I would use probably holy water from a local place. I'd probably steal it. And then like evergreen branch, but typically the biggest part of that folk exorcism is to include salt. So you throw salt into every corner of the room after saying a blessing over it, sweep it in, get rid of it. I like to add in a little bit of fumigation or sufumigio, if we're saying it in Italian, which you can cater to a specific purpose. It's basically like creating incense and fumigating the space. I'd probably use juniper because it's really strong ally for me and it's really good for getting rid of evil. Little bit of rue, so make it stink up the place a little bit. I'd actually probably add salt to the fumigation as well, because salt is like the great purifier in my tradition, in my practice. And then probably a little bit of rosemary, just like for fun. But from there, it's like kind of traditional windows open, leave everything outside, dispose of it outside. Typically, I've noticed this is the kind of cleansing that I do. The feather scared me. I was like, I do this cleansing really regularly, even though it's technically an exorcism, and it's really reliable for keeping the energy in a house good, alongside the fumigation as well.
Okay, so I've lived through this twice, and it's not fun. So here's what I'm going to say. Let's assume that this is not an egregor, that it's not a friendly spirit. Okay, this is a malicious entity in the home, and it's terrorizing people. I would make one attempt first to simply ask the spirit to move on rather forcefully. If that didn't work, I would attempt to seal the spirit in a piece of selenite and huck it into the ocean. And if either of those two work, the next thing I would do would be to ward the house with runes using algaes, thurosavs, and tiwas, and then create a barrier of black obsidian and salt around the house. But if that didn't work and there were any more incidences after that, I would tell the people to move the fuck out.
Okay, I think I was next. Hope that's correct. Okay. So if it was a haunting for a friend's place, I would probably go in there by primarily first binding the spirit in some regard with Saint Michael. I'll probably use the conjuration of Sunday. Hopefully it can be on Sunday or even the hour of Sunday, as close as I can. From there, I will probably invoke Saint Cyprian as a mediator to see what the spirit's all about, if they are friendly. As long as the friend would be okay with it, I would say at that point, it would probably be a mix of sigils and iron to make a sort of like spot like you can play in here. Just stop messing with the majority of the house, so that way hopefully the spirit can be satisfied as well as the homeowner. If they are not friendly, I think Cyprian would be still a great one to send back to wherever that spirit may have came from. If it is rare or not a demonic entity, I would say invoking a demonic king, one of the ones from the Goetia, or even one of the LBA spirits, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Astaroth, to banish away the demon, basically get a bigger demon to get the smaller demon out of there. I think would probably be my course of action.
Nope, it didn't lower. So I guess there are things that people have touched on, so I'm just going to quickly go through the process I would go through. I actually had this discussion with somebody in real life to help them get rid of somebody in their house. So first I would just talk and ask them to leave. If that didn't work, then I'd sage the place to get them out, and then salt all the entrances and doorways. You could even take a pentagram and in the air, just over all the doorways and the windows and even the mirrors and toilets. Oh yeah, I would also, before I did that, throw a rosemary floor wash in. And then I would have the person do a spell on themselves for grounding and safety. So I would imagine roots going into the earth, and then doing a sigil for protection, or maybe a rune if that's better for the person. And then put that on a white candle and then burn it when you're feeling particularly vulnerable.
All right, so running through a couple things, because some of the stuff I would do has already been said. I would do divination mostly to determine if this is A, a spirit that I can call upon a higher ranking spirit to get out of there, or B, if I can just do like a typical spirit trap where I do the spirit trap. I use Saturn for most of my spirit traps. And then the Seal of Solomon is obviously encased within, so that keeps the spirit within the trap until I can expose it to the sun and release it. Calling on St. Michael for that is like a very common thing to do. I would often recommend people praying the chaplet to St. Michael, or just the prayer to St. Michael for deliverance over the course of 7 days. If you want to do a novena, that's up to you. But yeah, mostly it'd probably be spirit trap. Otherwise, it would be a larger invocation also on the day of Sunday and the hour of the sun, calling upon the angel that rules the spirit that is in the house.
Okay, so the process I would go through, either myself or I would give advice for the other person to do, is first of all, protect self. So this could be as simple as like donning some enchanted jewelry, holding a talisman, asking a spirit for protection or whatever. Then communicate with the spirit. So same thing that Bente said, just see where they're at, what's happening there. I would do that either through speaking or the pendulum. I really like the pendulum for spirit communication, or a Ouija board or something like that. Next would be if they are a spirit that shouldn't hang around, banishing, exorcising. So I would usually do that with smoke or sound myself. So So the smoke would be like, sage, I really love, rosemary, sulfur, chili, charcoal, just those kind of intense kind of smells. Now, while burning or, making sound, so like bells or a healing bowl or clapping or something like that, being very forceful with the spirit and like knowing this is my space. I'm standing in my power. You get out. I actually have a funny story about that. So years ago, my son came to me late at night once and he was like, oh, there's something in the room. I don't know. He was freaking out. He was a bit like, and I was like, no, fuck this shit, right? So I went in there and I didn't have really anything. So I grabbed a pot and a spoon and I was just bashing the pot. And I was like, get the fuck out. You know what I mean? And honestly, that worked. It was really simple, but I was forceful, standing in my energy, mama bear energy. And that stuff, I know that's not a full story, but the stuff that was going on all, sort of went. So that works really well as well. You don't have to have any fancy tools. The next thing would be to bless the space. So just put in some positive energy. So this could be done with prayers, lighting candles, incense. Something sweet is nice, like when a space is cleared, to add back in a kind of sweetness. And then finally, protection. So we had some other good examples, but sprinkling around the perimeter, doors, windows, black pepper, salt, or witch's black salt. Spirit traps are awesome. So like witch bottles or witch balls. And also, I really love there's a southern tradition of painting porch ceilings haint blue, they call it. So it's like a really light kind of blue. I love this so much. I know it's not my tradition, it's not my culture, but it's kind of something I would really love to do one day as well. But yes, and then there's one other thing. There is this really cool incense that I've heard about. I have never used it myself. It's very expensive to get here, but it's available in the States and elsewhere. It's called Tibetan Ghost Purging Incense, or Tibetan Incense for Defilement Cleansing. And I found a couple of the things that are included in this, a couple of the ingredients. They use red, white, sandal, saffron, which is a mix of obviously sandalwood and saffron, cardamom, clove, and I think it's pronounced bezoar or something, which is essentially, this is crazy, but it's essentially a hairball from a cow's stomach. So there you go. So Tibetan purging incense is supposed to be awesome. So yeah.
I'm someone that I love a haunted home. So I love interacting with spirits. And one of the reasons why I work with demonic entities is also to, call on the king in situations like that. But I also would like to add that when they aren't malevolent, right? When they are maybe spirits of that home or ancestry, I think setting boundaries is important, because I've had to tell spirits like, this is my sleep time. We have boundaries for this. If you would like to communicate with me, this is the time that we do this. So I think setting boundaries is important if you aren't looking to get rid of the spirit, right? If you don't mind that they are there, setting boundaries, I think, is important.
Can I drop something real fast as well?
Yeah,
Urine. Like just cleaning the floor of your house with urine. Like heavy, nasty, post-coffee urine. Yeah, like marking your territory. Yeah, that too. If I am not wrong, they do it here with hoodoo as well, but
Yes, you can always rely on a good old thing of piss
right,
to
I think
take
that
care of
you
something.
you
Yes,
also
you can. Yes,
you mentioned it,
sir.
yeah.
Honey, yes.
Lovely. Damn, you guys, okay, so I'm obviously in episode 1 and 2, same thing here. I'm trying to go last so that I give everyone else the opportunity to answer first, because I'm the one that obviously created these prompts. And by the time it gets to me, now that we can't repeat stuff, I'm like, what is left for me to say about this question? The only thing that I will say that I don't think anybody, maybe some people kind of danced on it a little bit, but didn't really talk too much about it, is really befriending spirits. Because I think that sometimes sure, there are a time and place to kick malevolent spirits out, but I think sometimes we may think a spirit is malevolent when they're really not. So I wanted to kind of share my story really fast. I was living in a super haunted place, and things would fly off the bookshelves all the time. Like I had books coming down, there was other bookshelves in other rooms that were coming down. One time we had a kitchen cabinet completely detached from the wall and everything came crashing down. And it was just all this spiritual activity, crazy shit that was completely unexplained. I mean, nobody was touching the stuff, just so many things. And so I finally said, okay, we've got a spirit in here and I need to figure out what to do. So I sat down to do some divination. And it turns out that this spirit was really unhappy that I was in their space. Like this was their territory and they were not being acknowledged. So rather than kicking that spirit out, I actually made an offering to the spirit of peace and to see if we could coexist together. So I didn't have to kick them out of their space, because they're right. It was their space before it was my space. I'm just renting this house. You know, it's not even like a house I purchased myself. So I made this peace offering. And then from then forward, I made weekly offerings of, you know, just like a little bit of food here and there. If I'm sitting down to dinner, make an extra plate for the spirit, you know, just signs of respect, leaving little offerings on the mantle. We had a little fireplace or whatever. No issues after that. No issues whatsoever. We were able to coexist peacefully and it was totally fine. So I think banishing methods are really helpful, but I think it's also really sweet when you can coexist with spirits as well and not necessarily kick them out of their homes. So just wanted to add that. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next topic? I think we are. I don't see any more hands. Number 9. Okay, so 9 is you are ready to take your spirituality to the next level in the sense that you want to encourage growth, healing, and connectedness to the universe, whatever it is you personally believe about the universe. How do you use spell work to supplement spiritual growth?
Okay, my hand flew up, and it's because I've done this a lot. I think one of the best things in spiritual practice you can do to keep yourself accountable is to align what you're doing with a spirit. So I have a lot of tutelary spirits that are involved for different things, but something in all fairness, I stole this idea a bit from a friend, so all credit goes to them. But I buy like a planner, like a calendar planner from the store, and I consecrate that book. And so it becomes this like magical planner thing in a sense, and it's consecrated to all these spirits. And so any spirit that is involved in a discipline that I want to expand upon throughout the year, then they get added to that like consecration list. And so everything that gets put into that planner, like it's almost a pact in essence between myself and the spirits that are aligned with it. Whereas like my offerings to them are doing the work that I promised to do. And so having a spirit on my ass a little bit, like really helps me actually grow in magical things. Is that's kind of the primary thing that I like to do. Growth comes from practice, from actually doing magic. So again, like having a spirit on your ass can really help with that. Don't do this if you don't think you can actually fulfill the obligations that you set forth within that book, especially with some of the spirits that I work with. Like I wouldn't want to be breaking those promises. But if you really want to look for change, that's a good way to go about it.
Originally I didn't raise my hand because I'm like, I don't have an answer to this question. I haven't done this. And I'm like, oh no, wait, I have. I incorporated my ancestors in my practice and got yeeted. So that's kind of my answer is I think that especially if you want to go that route, even if you're not going the route of like reconnecting to their folk magic, bringing ancestors in like a more kind of foundational or physical way is a really great way for them to kind of help you with your spiritual growth, because ultimately they're your family, which also means there's going to be some that are like, what are you doing here? And there's going to be some that are like, oh yeah, I'll help. So you kind of have to parse through which is which. The other kind of side to this thing is I like to do candles that are going to force me to confront things that I don't want to confront, almost like shadow work candles. I very typically will create a like in some traditions like a kind of like a run devil run candle or anything like that, or a snake in the grass candle, and that typically will throw me for that spiritual growth loop, which I don't recommend doing that, but I do want to share that I do that. But yeah, those are the kind of two things.
Okay, my camera just cannot decide whether it wants to work or not. So I'm like going in and out of consciousness at the moment. But I feel like anytime I feel this need for spiritual growth or connection, I always return back to Hecate. Like that's my go-to situation because I feel like she really gives no shits about how I feel in the way that she doesn't need to care about how I feel. Like sometimes you just need that person in your corner who's going to tell you the truth and put you back on track. So that's my go-to. It's always her. That's my go-to. And then also like Astra said, I feel like when I'm in that rut, if I make promises to spirits that I work with, I'm more inclined to uphold those promises rather than relying on my own volition, because I can be lazy in that way. So I feel like if I'm making a promise to a spirit, I know that I can uphold it, and typically that'll get me out of my rut.
Okay, so I'm going to, from my own personal reasons, kind of define spiritual growth probably a little bit differently than everyone else. For me, right? Not, this doesn't apply to anyone, but for me, spiritual growth has always been working with the same set of spirits I've been working with for the last 10 years to develop an understanding of what spirits are and what the spirit realm is and how people can make contact with it in an efficient way. And that's a huge part of what my practice is all about. So when I hear spiritual growth, like that's what I think of, is getting deeper into that and creating an understanding that's more applicable to more people.
All right. I actually, when you asked this question, I was like, damn, this is a hard one, because I do feel that this is the only type of question that a spell work can provide support, but this is more you type of decision type of thing. For example, on my end, okay, I am a bitch for like little baggies with powders and photos and signatures and shit like that's. So what I will do is take like red fabric. Red for me is a very passionate color. It's very impactful. It's protective, but it's angry, but it's full of energy. I will take that color, not necessarily associated with wisdom or connection, but it's more like the action of. I tend to be lazy. I have ADHD. I'm all over the place. So I want to focus on that action energy instead of passive energy. So I will take that. I will put a photo of myself, a signature, a prayer, and in addition to that, I will literally set up myself with a support group, which I do feel that is where I'm at now. The three more significant moments in my life, especially with magic, has been when I started practicing with my magic with my ancestors, when I brought in my ancestor practice, when I found friends that are witches as well, and when I started receiving classes. And those are the three moments in my life that I've seen my magic, and I hate to say magic, but you know what I mean, grow, because I've had the support group. I've had the support group of my ancestors, I have my friends, and now I have my instructors. So what I will say is, if I want to connect more, I will do that spell, certainly like to seal the deal, but I will also set up, which is what I'm doing right now, is set up that support group. Get along with people or schedule with people spells that we want to do together and practice together. In this instance, connecting with the universe is actively set up meditation time, which is something that I'm doing. I'm scheduling meditation moments throughout the day, because I do need that time. A lot of people find this type of setting your spirituality to the next level very peaceful and relaxed. For me, it's more coming out of my comfort zone. I do find that when I put myself out of the comfort zone, that's when my practice levels up, if that makes sense.
All right. So I would probably tackle the question two, or I would divide it into two different things. One would be like if I feel disconnected and I want to reconnect, or two, I want to grow. So first of all, I would do spell work for neither. I'm not a person who would do spell work for that, because I kind of think that's, I don't know, something that I have to do more organically. So what I would do if I feel disconnected is, because my practice is so insanely bi-regional at this point, whenever I feel disconnected, it's usually because I feel disconnected from the land around me. So simply going outside, taking walks, doing utisetta, so sitting out basically, sitting under the cloak, meditating outside, conversing with the local spirits, that's extremely important. So if I would feel disconnected, that is what I would do. Also completely agree with what Frankie said. Ancestors, ancestors, ancestors. That has been a huge step for me too. As well as, because I'm also a Norse pagan, reconnecting with the gods and goddesses. That's a huge one too. And that's also where the growth aspect for me comes from. I'm not necessarily a person who forces growth. Like if it comes, it comes, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't, and that's fine. If I stall, I stall. Nothing that I have a problem with. But I can definitely say that the the moment where or that the moment that created the most growth for me was when I started working with Odin, because he's like one of those who chimes in and he's like, I'm giving you this and this and this task, bye. And he removes himself from your life for a couple of months until he comes back and he's like, oh yeah, here's this new task, this new task. So he was basically the one who got me into like studying 6 different books about the runes, ending up in like 40 pages on notes and like starting my YouTube channel and everything like that. So if you want to grow and like learn and gain some knowledge and some wisdom, then Odin is definitely a good one to start working with.
I think as far as spiritual growth goes, it's a little bit harder if you're a content creator and your full-time job is thinking about magic, thinking about spell work, thinking about teaching it to other people, either on YouTube or however, in different ways. For me, I tend to get into a rut and do the same things over and over. So for me, spiritual growth looks like doing something new. And I think that maybe I would try to dream incubation, or maybe putting a sigil under my pillow, or journaling about maybe trying to get spiritual growth to happen and to find out actually what that looks like for me, because you can get into such a rut where you just keep doing the same things over and over again and you just say, this is my practice. And so I think maybe dream incubation, trying to do some dream journaling, and also just getting out of my comfort zone, trying to be really honest with myself about what growth would look like, and then just taking some risks and just doing different things, going different places, getting out into nature, maybe even just in just looking at some other practices and trying some things, just dipping your toe into a different practice or a different tradition. I think with chaos, it's a little bit easier than everybody else to just say, I'm going to try something new. But I think that's what I would do. I think dream incubation, to really kind of hone in on something new, and then just trying not to be in habits all the time.
Hey, I've got a couple of spells I wanted to share. Neither of them are my own spells, but I have performed them before and changed them a little bit to make them my own. So the first one is a psychic development candle. So this is where I used a purple skull candle, link it to myself. So, dig out the bottom of it, put some personal concerns in there. So that is like, things from the body, generally handwriting, hair, nails, saliva, that kind of stuff. So linking that to me, and usually with a name paper as well. So my name, date of birth in there. And then inscribing the candle as well, with name, date of birth, but then also the things that you want. So again, so it's for psychic development. So like intuition, receiving guidance, whatever it might be. The candle is dressed with psychic oil, clarity oil, and crown of success oil, and then also dressed or sprinkled around with mugwort and star anise. And I've found this to be a really, really powerful spell. I've cast it for myself before, and my divination afterwards definitely took off. So that was really cool. The other one is it's to master a skill. So this is what the spell is for, but it can definitely be used for spiritual things. So I got this one from a man named Deacon Millet, which some of you may be familiar with. So what you do is you get a whole master root or a whole angelica root. So generally speaking, angelica is often considered more feminine, so you could use it that way, whatever. A representation of the subjects or topics that you want to master. So the way that it's recommended in the original spell, which I really love and I do, is I use books representing those particular things, those particular skills, whatever it is. And then the original spell calls for a 7-knob candle. If you can't get those, which I can't really where I am from, you can just use pins and stick 6 pins in, creating 7 separate sections. Then you've got master key oil, master key incense, a key itself, and then a herbal blend. So I use marigold, coffee, copal, star anise, and yarrow. And so what you do is you put the root on top of the representation. You draw a crossroads in front of that with the herbal mix. So that is a equal armed cross, or you can do it in a 5-spot pattern, either one. Then you dress the candle with the oil, light it, and then burn the incense. You run the key through the incense, and then you speak your desire. You call in what it is that you want. You call in, you know, that mastery, that skill, whatever. Then you repeat that each day for 7 days, and then you carry the key with you and then keep the root on the altar. Now, the last thing I wanted to recommend was, I think it's pronounced abramelin oil. Probably a lot of you guys know this, or holy anointing oil, which is from the Bible, Exodus 30:26. And that has myrrh, cinnamon, cassia, galangal, or calamus, depending on which source you're looking at, all in olive oil. So that's a really, really powerful, very spiritual oil to use as well.
Okay. So what I tend to use for advancement in my magical practice and such is usually something I tend to come back to, but I never really do it the same way twice. And that would be following the roadmaps of either like the Hermetic Sephiroth, the 10 spheres of the Tree of Life, or the Qliphothic 10 spheres of the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. Because these are like symbolic roadmaps of universal energies mingling with each other. And in that regard, every time I've gone through them and meditated on them, it changes my life drastically. Going with that, though, it's not a short process. If I do it, it's usually like, okay, I need to slate off like at least a year to get at least a semblance of every little sphere, how they interact with each other, the tunnels in between, all the symbolisms. Usually taking a chunk of time to meditate on each sphere, what they mean, what they can bring. And I kind of like to tinker with these trees, almost kind of like as if, you know, a mechanic was tinkering with a car, or a computer wizard was tinkering with their mainframe, etc. Anything like that. I don't know computers, but it's like, okay, so I went up one time, I went down another time. What happens if I do it this way? You know, what happens if I do it this way? Really looking at different ways of understanding not only mechanics of the trees, but what they're trying to symbolize. And on top of that, adding some spell work in there. You could, of course, make an altar for each sphere, which going over them would take like a long time, so I'll just skip over that. I would also recommend adding on the 4th pentacle of Mercury from the Greater Key, just to make that knowledge go way, way faster. As for what Astra said with you know, commitments and stuff like that, I very much agree with that, and especially take an infernal route of usually writing out a like infernal pact if I'm going demonic centric, usually with a, you know, an infernal leader, infernal king. I tend to do the whole calligraphy route with it, make it all official stuff like that, and just having that just to look at every day. It's like, I promised, I got to do it. So that's been very helpful throughout the years.
Hey, Lucas, I have a question for you. You were talking about traveling the paths of the tree. When you do this, do you find that it's like practical things that you get, or is it more like a different perspective that the Sephiroth often can provide that then it translates to actually having like practical applications?
Yeah. Most of the time I do it for inner transformation and reflection of like, okay, how do I make myself better as a person? From there, that's really all I focus on, because that tends to bring material happiness and change in the material world. Like for example, if I need, oh, I want to get a new job, or I want to get a new, you know, house or something like that, I'm not gonna go through all 10 trees just for that. It's gonna be, okay, I feel stagnant, I feel frustrated, I feel constricted, any other words for uncomfy. And I want to, grow through a different discomfort, a familiar discomfort, I guess you could say. And so as long as I implement those fears to kind of reflect upon myself, how am I feeling these ways? How can I grow from the experiences I've had, that sort of thing. It's mostly inner transformation that then leads to outer reward, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the tree is very much so like an introspective kind of theurgic, especially traveling up the tree, that can lead to a lot of like big life changes that often actually end up totally changing your life. So love that you brought up the tree. It's great.
I am just in awe. The amount of knowledge that we have on this panel is unreal, and I just love listening to everyone's answers. I wanted to add a little bit of a chaos ritual. It involves a hypersigil. So you would sit down with a white candle, preferably white candle, but you can use whatever candle you want, of course. You would sit down, and a hypersigil is just a fancy way of saying narrative magic. It's really a sigil that is, I think, the definition is a sigil that has transcended the fourth dimension by adding character, plot, and drama. So you're basically just writing this story and weaving in as many sensory components to it as possible. So you'd sit down with your white candle lit, and you would write for this ritual, you would write a letter to yourself. But in that letter, you are actually your future self writing it to your past self, which is your current self. So I hope that makes sense. But so you would write it in present tense as if you are that future person that has already achieved all of these spiritual goals that you set out for yourself. So let's say you want to improve your psychic abilities, your intuition, whatever it is spiritually. And I think this actually kind of encourages the practitioner to define what their goals are for their spiritual practice first. So that's a really helpful component to it. But you would sit down and write this letter to yourself in the present tense to your past self. And then you would burn the hypersigil. You'd probably enter a Gnostic state beforehand, of course, but you would burn the sigil or the hypersigil with the white candle flame, and then you would take the ashes and then bury it in the dirt somewhere that symbolizes prosperity for you. I really like using the fire element and the earth element together, because the fire element really kind of just like yeets something out into the universe for manifestation. It's really like this punch of energy. But then taking the ashes and burying it, you get that earth energy, which is so good for a strong foundation and long lasting results. So I always like to, Lucas in the chat just said yeet. Exactly. Yeet it out and then bury the ashes for some added stability and some earth energy. So that is what I would do. Next prompt, we are going, I need to, hold on. There we go. Next prompt that we are going to do is the first one. So the first one is, you and your ex broke up and it was a horrible breakup. You're having a really difficult time moving on from what happened. You do have one item from them, let's say a piece of clothing that belonged to them, a love letter, a picture, or some of their DNA. What would you do?
Sorry, I never raised my hand first. I feel like this is the perfect prompt for me as far as being an art witch. Because if you have a piece of something like a love letter or a piece of clothing or something like that, that is something that could make such powerful magic. If you took, say, for example, I would take that love letter and I would write on top of it my message of letting go, my desire to cut the cord, to make a clean break, to stop thinking about this person, whatever the objective that you have. I would cut it up into multiple pieces. I would paint the pieces with ink or paint or different colors. And you could just intuitively choose the colors for letting go, whether that's like grays or reds for you, or maybe it's brighter moving on colors. I mean, it's all very, like, art magic is very personal and intuitive, but I would probably make a mosaic or something on a canvas. I would make a beautiful piece of art with this love letter that I've rewritten a new intention on top of and colored in my colors of peace and happiness and moving on. And then I would make a new piece of artwork out of it. And then I would hang that on my wall and I would use that as a focus for as long as it took. And at some point, when you feel that it's finally happened, you've moved on, it's no longer affecting you, then I probably would not keep that artwork. I would probably destroy it completely once it's served its purpose.
I'm an expert in this. You can't beat a ritual bonfire. Ritual bonfire, if you can in your backyard, if you can't at the beach, but you got to get everything. Everything, every scrap, every shred of a shirt or a sweater or whatever the fuck it is, get it out of your house, burn it all, go home and feel better. Every little item that you have that is a connection to somebody you don't want to be thinking about anymore is a portal to your home for their energy, and it's gross, and I can't stand the thought of it. So burn it all.
Okay, so I do want to preface that the spell that I came up with sounds baneful, but it's not intended to be. I kind of just wanted to put that out there, but I did want to go for a bit of a spicier answer with this one. And in this case, this would especially be if not only the breakup was bad, just the memories were really painful. In this case, I would, depending on what it was, how easy this would be, I would create a sigil to represent the pain. I would put that onto the whatever this tag lock is, bind it up, and what I would do, going back to the Clifothic tree for a second, the tree of knowledge, which is all about like division, corruption, that sort of thing, I would focus on the sphere of Gamaliel, which specifically is all about the union of Samael and Lilith. In this regard, what I'm going to do is, in a sense, destroy the idea of them in my mind. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to ritualistically, with infernal words, infernal conjuration, etc. How do I want to word this? Basically, extract whatever happiness I felt that this essence is taking from me, extract it back almost vampirically, and then any pain that I feel, put into the tag lock. So it's kind of going to be like a switcheroo type thing. In that case, what I'll do, I'll either keep the tag lock if they're a practitioner, just in case, bind it, put it in the back, not worry about it, say, no, you don't. If they are not a practitioner, I will probably just destroy it. But the idea of them is to destroy that person in my mind. If it just so happens to destroy them physically, you know what? I don't want to hear about it. If it doesn't, may they kumbaya into the sunset. That's fine with me. As long as I get my happiness, as long as they get the pain back I felt they unrightfully gave me, that's what the point of this is. Lilithian vampiric extraction, Samael happiness blast. Woohoo.
Okay, so I would work with one of three approaches. Around me, there are two plants that I would work with for the one approach. One of them would be bindweed. That's kind of a classic, but also white bryony. White bryony would be my preferred one because it grows these spirally vines that they grow just to grab onto other plants, or like, I don't know, anything that they can climb on basically so that they can grow up. So I kind of see this as a great metaphor for someone who is clinging onto you or something that is clinging onto you. So I would either use that to kind of connect like two tag locks, one for me and one for the person, and then like ritually, ceremonially snip it or burn it or something like that to kind of sever the connection. Or I would work with like the concept of like, that's something from Scandinavian folk magic where if you want to get rid of something, you will give it to a north flowing stream because the north is where the evil stuff goes. So I would either like burn the thing that I have of them, like a love letter or something, burn it and then give that to a north flowing stream, or to a south wind because that's blowing towards the north. I also think that could work. Or I would work with the approach where like the earth gives things, but the earth also takes back. So I could also see that work really well where you would burn something and then like bury the ashes somewhere to like give it back and let the earth handle it basically. And then like if I want to add more juice to it, then maybe I would burn it at the crossroads too.
All right. So, this one is like the horrible breakup it's where I'm like, okay, what do we mean with horrible? Like violence horrible, manipulation horrible, like let's say a combination of all. Um, my mentality with everything, and I think that is something that it can be seen easily, with something I do not enjoy it, I just don't want that around. I simply cut ties with that and push it away. So let's say that this is the horrible that does not inquire me to hex a bitch. I will simply do a cutting cord, like something simple, I will grab all the necessary tag logs, and I will do a cutting cord spell, like separating energetically my energies from their energies. Um, if necessary, I will do a binding spell, not necessarily, yeah, like a binding of, I bind you to getting closer to me. I'm putting your energy, like I want whatever it's good for you to be had, but you be happy away. Now, is this horrible in the sense of go off? I do admit that I did one hex in particular where I did a puppet and I hanged the puppet upside down in a jar and I put the jar underneath the toilet, and every single time that I flushed the toilet, it was like um and it worked. So I really like to think that I'm all peace and love until I don't hex. Like I don't believe in petty hexing. I don't believe in hexing just for funsies. But when is necessary, have fun with it. And I had fun.
Okay, so the first one I want to share with you is one that I did myself, and I actually used 0 personal concerns for this one. This was my very, very first spell. I had a soul tie with this guy, and it was essentially an emotional affair. It had to end. It was terrible. It came to light one night. I was just like, fuck, it's got to go, right? So I went down to the beach. I found a stick, which is kind of a miracle because there's no sticks on this beach, but there was that night. And all I did was I poured my intention into that stick that was a representation of this relationship between us. And so I just poured in all the emotion, went through the process that I needed to go through, and then I just chucked it as hard as I could out into the ocean. And I was shocked by how well it worked. I actually we tried to sort of start the relationship up again, like a couple of years down the line, and it just wouldn't work. It was done. So that's really powerful. So if you had like a something to tie to the stick or whatever, you could certainly do that. Or if you had like a liquid personal concern, you could wipe it on the stick. The other thing is to consider, like, obviously what you kind of want. Like, do you want revenge on the person? Do you want to banish the feelings that you're feeling? Do you want to process difficult emotions? Whatever. I've got another spell to fall out of love, if that is kind of where you're feeling where you're at. So it's pretty simple. You need 9 walnuts. So walnuts break the power of the past and the hold of the emotions that need to be left behind, right? So traditionally, black walnuts are used, but you can use any other kind of walnut as well. You want to have the shells on them. You want 1 black candle and 2 white candles. And for this one, I used a love letter as the personal concern. So you want to make a strong tea with the walnuts. So the suggestion is 3 quarts water, boil it down to 1 quart. Okay, so you want a nice brown water. Then you put that into bath water. Then you put the white candles on either side of the bath where you're going to step through them. And you want to set the black candle and love letter. It depends on your kind of bathroom. I have a space where I can actually have it right next to my bath, but in the bathroom somewhere. Then you want to light the candles, step through those white candles, dunk or pour the water over your head at least 9 times. And as you do, you're renouncing the relationship, you're renouncing the ex-lover, you're speaking what it is that you want, you're giving those commands, breaking the ties. Then depending on your bathroom, you can stand in the bath. You want to light that love letter on fire on the black candle, and then drop the ash into the bath. So you have to be kind of careful because obviously, with burning paper, it can easily, full pieces drop into the bath. So you want it all to be ash. So you can burn it in something else first and dunk it in the water if you want. Then traditionally, all of the bath water is collected, but we aren't doing that. So 1 cup is good. You collect a cup, let out the water. You allow yourself to to air dry. You just want all of that energy on you. Now, traditionally, the water is thrown out at a crossroads or at a tree. However, I like to throw it out my front door at sunset. So that is that coming the end of the day. And the last one I'll share, I didn't know if I wanted to go here, but I'm going to go here. So, use this wisely. So if you want someone to be impotent, okay, so if they've really screwed you over, a really, really, really simple spell is to mix their semen or vaginal fluids, is that what we call it? I don't know, we need a better name for that, with goofer dust. So goofer dust is like, it could kind of be understood in hoodoo as like death dust. It brings death to things. So there's many different recipes, but I have here graveyard dirt, sulfur, salt, gunpowder, saltpeter, and church bell grease is also traditional. So have fun with that.
Hello. So Bente, you mentioned burying, and I'm going to do a spell specifically for that. So you just need a trowel or a shovel. You need to find some property that is away from you that you never go to, never pass. So someplace you don't know well and you've never been to and you're not going to go back. You need scissors and you're going to take the item if it's, I'm assuming it's going to be like a letter or a photo or something like that, or a handful of things like that. You're going to cut up the items, and then you're going to say, I cut ties with you. May we never cross paths again, out of mind, out of heart, out of body, out of field. And then you cover it with dirt and say, so it is.
I'm all for like making somebody have a limp dick. Like, let's go down that route. I love that for them. I'm all about therapeutic revenge. So like if we're talking about like a toxic ex, like how toxic are we talking? And if it's like terrible, like it's okay to feel anger and to act on anger to a certain extent. So I don't know, like war water, taking a picture of the tag lock, putting it in the kitty litter, letting the cat shit and piss all over it. Maybe burning the stuff, putting it in a hole, you shit and piss on it. Maybe you want to like look at a picture of them, cuss them out, tell everybody you know how terrible of a lover they are. I mean, all of these things can be very like proactive to like making you feel better. But then obviously towards the end of like this rampage, you do want to, maybe do a cord cutting and like go on your way. But sometimes when you're involved with someone that's so toxic and that's caused so much hurt and pain in your life, like there is therapy and revenge. I don't know if that's controversial, but that's my take.
If anybody knows me, I'm all a good fire, right? Is my first go-to. But some things are valuable, right? So I'm also all about the alchemy and understanding things. And I think in an artist too. So transmuting the energy, I think, is also a good way, using that energy and making it something else. So maybe like having it as a reminder, like don't do that shit again in a book somewhere, right? So I think I wouldn't be so fast to get rid of a lot of things because again, I need that to remind me this was at that part of my journey and this is what happened and this is the result of it and all of those things. So transmuting energy is a big part of something that I would do.
It's really interesting hearing all of your answers because I wrote this question in an attempt to have it be interpreted multiple ways. I mean, as some of you said, how toxic is this X? Do we want to do baneful magic or do you want to focus on like healing your heart and things like that? So I really love hearing all the answers. I'll share a ritual for this actually worked. This is something that I personally did for myself. I am a very intense and very emotional person. Like I'm the person that's like, hold on, I gotta read what Frankie just said in chat. Someone get a cucumber, we're hexing dicks today. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, it's so funny. But yeah, I'm really intense. And knowing that I have a really difficult time moving on, I need a long, elaborate ritual because I can't just do a one and done thing. Like I would normally start on the dark moon, as Sanhre mentioned, having a big ass bonfire. And I'm not going to repeat, because I know we're not trying to repeat answers, but I would take I have a selenite athame that I use for situations like this where I do a ritual bonfire of burning all their shit. And then I run this over my body and I chant, I call back all my power, and I try to sever any connections possible. So that's what I would end up doing on a dark moon. And then the next day, when the moon kind of switches from that dark moon, new moon period to where it's starting to become waxing again, and for the next few weeks, I will do a ritual. And so what I've done in the past to heal my heart is I created a sigil using the intention phrase, my heart is healed. I carved it into a pink candle. And you want the candle to be big because you want it to be able to burn over the next like couple weeks. And then I take my mala beads. So you can take any sort of prayer beads, but mala beads traditionally have 108 beads. And then you would sit in front of the pink candle and you would chant your whatever mantra you created for yourself, going bead by bead, chanting it 108 times. And then after you've done your chants, you would extinguish the flame, obviously. My timer's going off for someone else because I forgot to reset it for myself, but you would extinguish it. And then the next day, you would do the same thing. You would sit down in front of your pink candle, take your mala beads or your prayer beads, and then chant 108 times, my heart is healed, my heart is healed. And it does work. It totally fucking works. And after doing that, after so many weeks, even for a super intense emotional person like me, it does help to actually let go and move on from the situation. I feel like I maybe shouldn't have said that because now people are going to think I'm really crazy. But like, oh well, it is what it is. It's fine. It's fine. Frankie, go ahead.
So I love like talking about all these really elaborate rituals because I'm like, yeah, I would love to do that. But I actually had this happen. Like I had a really bad ex and I didn't do much. I did, however, start working with Freya very quickly afterwards. And that was kind of the jump start into healing. I did do like the cord cutting. I also wrote out a really strongly worded letter and sent it to them over text, which was really nice. And I do recommend doing that if it's like a really bad ex and you're okay with like ending contact that way. But yeah, I was gonna mention that like bringing in a specific spirit or deity or energy to kind of help you move forward, if that's your realm, is a really great way of kind of moving past that and having assistance during that healing process.
That is beautiful. Yeah, I loved all these suggestions. I think it's so important to assess, are we doing baneful magic or are we healing the heart? Are we like all the different ways to do it? Benta in chat says Freya would totally help in a cucumber hex. Fuck yeah, she would. Fuck yeah. Love that.
Well,
All
I
right.
think too, when you're talking about a breakup, like, isn't it kind of both things? Like at times it's painful, at times it's healing, at times it's like self-discovery. It's like all these weird, it's like grief in a way. Like you experience so many different emotions simultaneously and none of it makes sense until eventually you feel like yourself again. You know, especially if you're so attached to somebody, like they become a part of your identity. And then when it ends so abruptly and it's been so toxic, it's like you're kind of just scrambling to make sense of life until it makes sense again.
Yeah, that's why I love using like Athames to really like cut that shit from your body. You never know what you need and you never know like where you may have threads or cords tethered to this other person because like you said, like you have become them or some of their identity has kind of influenced your identity and it's so hard to separate. I've never ever had I don't know, actually, let's tangent for a second. Have y'all ever had good luck with cord cuttings separating from a person? Because I personally have not. It has not been enough for me. Okay, so maybe I'm the weirdo, but they just don't work for me.
I'm a
You
firm
have to
believer that.
like, oh,
Well,
sorry,
please.
AB, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You start talking first.
I'm a firm believer that each person has their own type of magic, and I do have to say that cord cutting and bindings are my shit. Like I have had just one time that it was like, and then I asked why didn't work, and it's because the person didn't give me their full name, and I was like, I asked you to give me all the data, and you didn't. That's your fault. But yeah, cord cutting and binding, that's my yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I won't hesitate to put someone in the freezer, like bound up with like wrapped in tin foil, eyes cut out, hands cut off. Like I don't care. I've done that multiple times and it works a lot, but also like for me and like binding is very common in so many folk magics and cord cutting and that kind of sympathetic magic is also like that. I would always recommend that if you don't want to do or if the cord cuttings aren't working, you can always do like a 9-day unbinding where you actually spend like 9 days taking, like cutting things, moving a candle one space away, moving another candle one space away, because it's more kind of drawn out, it really does give a little extra oomph. So if my cord cutting doesn't work, I'm like, we're gonna spend 9 days unbinding it, praying to Our Lady on Tire of Knots every single day. Like, let's do this.
I think also one of the things that helps me is sometimes it's hard for us to detach, even though we've done, all the things, is because sometimes we have that question like, why did this happen? Or, the lack of understanding of the situation. So for me, which is why I'm all about, transmuting it and the alchemy of it. If I understand better the situation and understand what was at play, like the trauma between the two and all of those things, I mean, sometimes you're not gonna get all of the answers. But when I better understand something and better understand what my role in it was, then I can kind of better detach from it and let it go.
I just want to add something to the cord cutting conversation because I started doing this and I really think it works a lot better. And I don't know if this is standard practice or what other people do. Okay, but normally in a cord cutting, I would read the wax at the end and see if they intermix, right, and what's going on there. Put a line of salt in between the two candles so the wax can't intermix, for one thing. And then also, and I did this with my last partner, and Ivy knows all about why. I will sit there and I will psychically destroy that other candle. I'll just stare at it until it is gone, and it'll generally burn twice as fast as the other one if I'm doing that. So, and that's as close as I'll ever get to doing anything baneful, because I'm getting my anger out that way at the candle, but then I'll just be done with it.
Okay, let me just throw it out there and that's it. Like there is a particular spell that Sarah Masters had in one of her classes. I think that is the Venus class, especially because this touches on that. We were talking about, yes, Hexabitch and whatever and cutting energy, but also what you were mentioning about the renunciation, or more like bringing your energy back. There is a particular spell that did remind me to that, and is in correlation to worshiping Venus Verdicordia, which is pretty much Venus, the goddess, one of the epithets, I think. And this particular spell was in relation to healing and forgiving, especially after a relationship went sour. Because also at the same time, like, yes, maybe the relationship ended wrong, but at some point you did say that you loved that person. At some point, that person said that they loved you. And at some point everyone around you heard that they were your person or whatever, and now here we are, oh, that's a pendejo or whatever. So that spell is pretty much also in correlation to that love. Like, I did feel that this love at some point and I need to be healed, not from the love but from the pain. So it's a good it's pretty much a bath with Venus, goat milk, some roses, and a good prayer to Venus Verticordia to help soothe the pain.
That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that a little bit. Yeah, I think working with Venus is so important too. Not just the moon, like I mentioned, but Venus too, for sure. I guess I should probably add an addendum. Like, I do think that cord cuttings can work for people. And when I say cord cuttings, I guess I should probably specify it's the one where you take the two candles and then you wrap the cord around them and then you let the two candles burn. Because like what I do with my athame could also be considered a cord cutting when you're running it across your body saying, I call back my power. And that does, I think it can work for people. But for me, I'm so emotional and that it doesn't work when I do one simple candle spell. Like, I need something that's going to be longer lasting for me. Because if I do a cord cutting with just two candles, I'm like, great, I still feel like shit afterwards. Like, I don't really feel like that cut the cord for me. But yeah, I guess it depends on the person. Lucas?
I can kind of sympathize with you, Ivy, with like how the cord cutting never feels like enough. So what I like to do in that regard, I don't know if anyone else has tried it, but I also kind of like to use the cord cut itself as like a progress tracker of like not the spell itself, but also like, okay, let's just see how this thing's looking. So like, even if you don't use a cord cut as a spell, I feel like you could probably use it as a good like, well,
Divination?
Yeah, progress tracker. Yeah, divination. Yeah, there's the word. Yeah, just be like, okay, let's see how this is going. And if it's going well, cool. And if it's not, I just lined up another one after your other attempt. Yeah.
That actually brings up, I kind of have a controversial opinion on cord cuttings. Like, if you were to have two candles and tie them together, then Frankie, yes, I feel like that is more of a spell that's divination. It's not actually cutting the cord. Like, I think it's more just divination of seeing how the cords are going to be cut or like what's happening. And then also, in addition to that, if you were to take some ritual scissors or a ritual athame and then actually ritually cut the cord between the two candles, then you're taking a more active participant role and cutting, like severing the ties. But if you were to just sit there and watch them burn, that's just straight up divination to me. I don't feel like it's anything other than divination. So sue me, but that's my opinion on that.
Totally agreed.
Agree.
To an extent, agree. I will say to an extent agree, because if the intention is to cut, you are cutting. I think to an extent, of course. Obviously we're adding more elements to it, but yeah. I will say I find that core cutting works better when you do it with puppets than just with candles, and not just putting like, what is the word? It's not ribbon in English. Now I'm forgetting all the words. Like if you have
A string, like a string or rope.
yeah, a string, but I was thinking more about this aluminum thingy that you utilize to maybe wrap something to decorate, like what you use for Christmas decoration. Why am I forgetting everything right
Tinsel?
now?
Ribbon.
Tinsel?
No, yeah, like it's like
The
metal-ish.
wire though, yeah?
Yeah,
The
like wire.
wire.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I find that car cutting works better when you use like a metal wire and you actually use like some, yeah, like big pincers to cut them. We have a bunch because my husband used them to organize his plants or whatever. But yeah, those bad boys work good. Yeah, yeah.
I have to say puppets is I agree with that because I didn't do it for myself, but I did help someone by creating a puppet for them and with energy work and to cut the cord and all of that. So it was successful. So I would say puppets are a good way to go.
Word. Love a good poppet. Love a good poppet to story that's someone's life. No, just kidding. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next prompt? I think we are. Yes? Okay, here we go. Number 11, which is you're feeling lazy and tired as fuck and you want to do some spell work to boost your energy and motivation. What elements do you use in your spellcraft to do this?
I mean, I didn't raise my hand because nobody else did. Like, I drink an energy drink. Like, I don't know. Like, caffeine, alcohol, I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I need to get in the space to like do it. Do you know what I mean? Because if I'm feeling lazy and I just allow myself to sit in that space, then I'm just gonna hang out and be in a vegetative state all day and do absolutely nothing and like binge watch like Real Housewives or something. So it's just like getting in the space, get magic moving, and it will happen. You just have to like get off your ass and actually do it.
I love that. Again, my magic sometimes is not too magic. It's more like, okay, am I feeling in a certain way? I need to do something different. I'm in a rut. I need to push myself out of my comfort zone. But with energy, though, I do have to say, and again, I do keep bringing these classes because our classes that I'm taking, there is a particular class with Sarah Mastros that is focused on circles. And there is an exercise that she has in the class that is about cycling energy. And pretty much is sitting down and meditating and putting your attention on energy flow within your body. Which it's very, very related to Tai Chi or whatever. But the point is that you are sitting, you are conscious of your body, and you just want to cycle energy. And this work actually a little bit better on Tuesdays, Mars days, whatever. Anyways, um, cycling energy. You think about your spine and you try to imagine that this is your spine and you want to circle the energy around your spine in a circle motion, up, down, up, down. It's not like you are going to feel anything. It's more like you are focusing on that section on your body and you are spinning faster and faster. And I do have to say that that helps me a lot. Um, if not simply a gym day. I'm a big boy, but I do feel that working out, going to the gym, maybe jogging, um, weightlifting does increment that energy ish to an extent.
So this is a question that pertains often because ceremonial magic just has a bunch of tools and movements, and you got to do over here, and it's a lot, right? And so one thing that really helps me, especially if I'm just kind of not feeling in my 100%, is intensely simplifying the rituals. Specifically in this case, something that'll help me feel less tired or less lazy. I'll take a look at what day it is, like it's Saturday today, and I'm just gonna worry about the one planet that deals with Saturday, so Saturn, right? And I'm just gonna visualize the planet, visualize a beam coming down to meet my crown with the color of the planet, in this case, black. If that does the trick, I'll bring it another notch. I will take a simplified version of the planetary hexagram, draw that in the air in front of me, and then see if that helps. If it does, I do it throughout the room. So it's almost kind of like trying to fill up fill up a bottle, myself being the bottle, like slowly but surely. And then from there, if I'm feeling even better, I will do the conjuration of the day, like I said, the haunted house thing, for like Saturday. So it's gonna be like I have this little step regimen thing. Like, can I do this? Cool. If I do that, can I do this? I'll give it a try. And then you just keep doing it until you've basically done all the steps of a ritual without having to put on the robes or get the wand out or go into the temple room. It basically is the same process, just a little bit more condensed.
Okay, so I'm gonna give my answer here, and it's not gonna sound particularly magical, but I truly believe it is. And I'm gonna answer this question from this point of view of a person who's very, very ADHD. So I deal with this a lot because there's ADHD paralysis and then there's ADHD burnout, and you gotta know which one you're dealing with. But let's say it's ADHD paralysis. It's really, really, so I heard this thing. It was really brilliant the other day. Somebody described having ADHD as like having erectile dysfunction of the brain, because it's like you can't get it up unless you're excited about what's going on, right? And that's extremely true for me. So generating excitement about things I would not otherwise be excited about is incredibly important to me. And I'll use ritual to do that, but it doesn't really matter what kind. It's the concept to me that to understand that I need to get excited about something or I'm not going to do it. So, any method to get excited about what it is. And one of the things that I think people who have ADHD or like people like me, whatever, really struggle with is focusing on long-term goals. So having like a chart made up where it reminds you to focus on your long-term goals and then get excited about the long-term goal rather than the actual event. I know this sounds very mundane and very like, yeah, duh, but it really helped me to hear it. So, focusing on that. But then if it's ADHD burnout, stop, play video games, do nothing, just watch TV, let your brain come back to balance, and then just go back to work.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that it depends on where it's coming from. If it's genuinely just like a burnout situation, just do nothing. I would not force myself into that if I feel like I'm burnt out. But I struggle with low energy and low motivation a lot, especially during the dark half of the year, because here in northern Germany, we basically don't get any sunlight during winter. It's bad. So I struggle with that quite a lot. So one thing I do is every midsummer I make an oil. I call it the solar serum oil because it's literally just liquid sunlight, basically. So it's just like an oil with a lot of different solar plants, and then I also charge that in the midsummer noon sun. So like all of the sun energy I can get, and then whenever I feel like I lack energy, I can use that, because for me, whenever I feel a lack of motivation or energy, it's usually because there is not enough sun out, because I'm a very, very solar person with my double Leo placement. Or like something else that I could see working is to make like a sun tea if it is sunny, but you're still lacking energy for some reason. And then maybe make that with solar plants like calendula or dandelion or something like that. If it is very windy, I would maybe just ask the wind spirit that's going on at that moment. If it's not a north wind, like with a north wind, I wouldn't do that. But with all of the other winds, I would maybe ask the wind spirits to give me some energy if that is something that works. And maybe I could see like a spell bag that you would also make on midsummer in the sunlight, charge it with sun, like all sun stuff. And maybe make that with like either herbs that like really pack a punch, like ginger or valerian root, cinnamon, something spicy, not ouch, this hurts spicy, like not chili, but like things that are like very flavorful or that smells very strongly. And then yeah, again, add all of this solar stuff into that, maybe like a bind rune with like a lot of Sovilo energy, something like that. Yeah.
So what I do, because this happens, I get lazy a lot. Like I have to be very interested in something to do it, and I have executive dysfunction. So when things feel really big or there's too much going on, my response is, I'm not going to do anything, and I'm just going to sit here and die. So I I basically kind of integrate food into this process because I have to feed myself. I have to eat. So I will enchant coffee in the morning if that's all I can manage. I will cook very specific foods throughout the day, or like last night I did like a basil and tomato for like a little bit of motivation and a little bit of like courage, also for money, but that's a different story. So that's what I made last night. And I will like put, if I'm just making like a basic dish and I'm putting like, I don't know, a sauce on it, I'll draw a sigil with the sauce. For me, it's just something that I have to do when I really love cooking. So integrating my ancestors, integrating like certain foods, seasonings, certain ways of cooking into it is really great to get my motivation back up, because all I have to focus on is making sure that the food doesn't burn. And from there, kind of adding that spell into it I've noticed does help long term, especially when you do it or you're kind of like, even if all you can manage is a little enchanted cup of coffee in the morning, it helps my day and it definitely makes me feel better.
I love that. I definitely relate to that really hard. Like this is something that I definitely struggle with in my own life, like a lot. I've been on a very long journey, probably about 8 or 9 year journey to this point, to getting to this point where I'm like, I feel like I can productively work at home now. It's been a whole thing. But so there's been a lot of mundane stuff in there too, of course. But a couple of the magical things that I do, I just brought the candle to show you. It's so simple, but it's literally just a red candle. It has like, so there's a card, it's in an astrology tarot deck of Vesta, right? Vesta's half flame. And so I've literally copied it's the same shape of that flame. God, it's so hard to say. You know, connecting to that card, connecting to her energy. There's Martian energy in here as well, like Mars energy. To me, that's really like, oh, let's go, you know. And then I have a word of power on the back as well, which is rise. So that has a lot of personal meaning to me. So I would just light this up in the morning. It does sit in other stuff as well, and there's a petition underneath it and all of that. The other thing I use is an oil that I call Get Shit Done oil. So I first made this years and years ago, and it is made on the Virgo full moon. So the next Virgo full moon will be in February 2025. However, there's a Virgo new moon. For me, it's on September 18th at 12:34 p.m. and it's September 17th, 7:34 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So everyone can get situated. Anyway, so I think that for me, that Virgo energy is really something that I want to like harness in this kind of thing. So the plants in this oil are either all fire or air. So it's like really like, right? And they're very much for my own personal issues and that kind of thing. But I use lavender for mental peace because, you know, often there's a lot of like, it's like what you were saying, Frankie, there's a lot of this going on. And then you're just like, okay, I can't do anything. I have a lot of that issue. Lemon verbena for fresh thoughts. It also empowers the entire formula. Star anise, which is a luck bringer. I just need all the luck in everything always. Snakeskin for transformation. Snakeskin is also like a magical Viagra. So that's another sort of empowering element as well. Dill for good fortune, and it also breaks cross conditions, usually in love, but still I like to use it for that. Yellow topaz, which relieves depression, which can be a little bit of a thing, and any other like mental afflictions as well. Dandelion root, dandelion who is a wish granter, and the root for that grounding as well. fennel seeds, which is, associated with fire, Mercury, and it wards off troublesome people. Okay, so just that external taken care of as well. And all of this I put into sunflower oil, which is really good for like potency and success. So I would charge that in the light of the lunar rays for at least 3 days. But obviously, different numbers and things could be used. But those are the things that I use to help me get more done.
For me, I would have to say that I use scent in my practice more than I realized. One of the things that I use is an oil that I spray on my hands, and I just call it an oil of power. And I've just put the word power on the spray bottle. And it's kind of a light floral scent. It has a little bit of lavender and rose in it, but it also has some crystals inside the bottle, as well as the oil itself is an olive oil, and then I put a little bit of frankincense in there, and I love patchouli. I'm a hippie at heart, so that's just kind of my scent, and I use it only every time I'm going to do ritual, or I'm going to do some kind of magical activity, or if I'm filming for the channel. And it's just something that gets my head straight. It brings me that smell. There's just something about using scent in ritual and in witchcraft that just brings you into the moment of when I smell the smell, now I'm doing magic. And it just takes you there. And also, I just really wanted to say that I loved Lucas's answer as far as like just taking the day and the planetary alignment of just a specific day as a very simple thing. For me, it's more a moon phase thing, whether it's waxing, whether it's waning or new or full, or what is the energy of the day and what magic can I be doing that's related to the phase. If you're just not sure what to do, you can always just go to planetary or lunar energy and just say, oh, today would be a good day for X. Maybe I'll do that. But also, I wanted to real quickly just mention I did a poll on my Patreon a couple of times asking what people struggle with or what they'd like to have content made about. And it was crazy the high percentage of people who said, I can't do a daily practice. I feel bad. I feel guilty. I can't get my stuff together to do these rituals. I miss out. I'm not prepared. And everybody feels like they have to do magic every single day to be a real witch. And you don't. You can take a day off. You don't, it's not always being lazy. So the idea of daily practice, I think, has really gotten out there in social media and people see it constantly. And I also think that people kind of trade on that as like trying to sell classes or that kind of stuff to make money, where they've made everybody feel like they have to, if you want to be a real witch, you have to do magic every single day. And you really don't. So just kind of wanted to say that one.
Mine's very simple. But also I am a big component of understanding the astrology, right, of the day and what's going on. Because a lot of times, these shifts and transits and things do affect the collective. But because I'm driven by Venusian things, I simply have to. I'm reverse. I cannot stand mundane things and tasks. Give me all the magic all day. So I have to turn on some music. It's mostly either like tribal fusion, like the belly dancing and or like Viking drums, but I have to give me the music and give me the sense. And I have to, if I'm really having a bad day, I have to make sure I'm standing up and turning the music on, because if I'm sitting down and the music comes on, I'm just like, oh, that's nice, and I'll just chill. But I'll get up and dance. Like I have to move. I have to shift the energy and shake it off. And then once I do that, it kind of gives me a little clarity on what the next step may be. I won't be so quick to go back into that that slump, that phase. So I have to, it's music. I'm sensory driven. It's the music, it's the sense, and raising my frequency and vibration in order for me to take the next step.
I will say to add to all that, I do something similar to Owlvine, not quite the exact same, but I really love working with Mars for like physical energy or motivation and just like boosting my energy overall. So for those that don't know, I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and so it's incredibly difficult for me to find energy to like do the things I need to do every single day in my mundane life. So I really do like to utilize spell work in that to try to kind of boost my energy. So I typically prepare a candle, like a red candle, on a Tuesday during the hour of Mars, kind of similar to the one that Owlvine has, like the tall 7-day candle, I think is what they're called. Yeah, one of those. Yeah, red candle for sure. You can add a sigil on there, but I usually do a little petition to Mars and then set it underneath the candle. And so you're kind of charging it on the first day, on that Tuesday. And then you're just sticking it on the altar and it's already ready to go. It's already prepared for Mars. And you just light it up each day that you need like a little bit of a boost of energy. And then I usually try to use some visualization as well. So I'll visualize tree branches coming out of the crown of my head and then reaching up into the celestial realm. And then I will draw down that energy, envisioning it kind of like this red crimson warrior color. And so that's coming through the tree branches into the crown of my head. And I'm just letting it trickle all the way down from my head, down to my feet, out to my arms. And I am filled with this like red, vibrant energy. And this whole color kind of consumes my being. So I love working with Mars for boosting energy and laziness because Mars is just aggressive. Mars doesn't give a fuck. It will mow you over. So yeah, it's great energy to work with. Here we go. Last prompt that we're going to do is 2. Ooh, we're going to end on a spicy one. Okay. You suspect someone is lying. They're fucking lying. You want the truth to finally set everyone free. What do you do?
So it's my turn? Okay. Well, in that case, okay, okay, I was going to say something problematic. Anyways, I'm a slut for pop magic, okay? I love Sabrina. I love spells that appear on TV. And there's a particular spell that appears on American Horror Story Coven where one of the witches do like a truth spell where they call for a series of spirits. I don't remember well the entirety of the spell, but it's something along the lines of I call to Justitia, Justitia, Sapientia, Ciencia, spirits of the vernacular, fire against the liar, something along those lines. I'm improvising. I make a sort of adaptation from that spell, and I utilize Deer's Tongue in a candle, and I call these spirits as well. Of course, I was not like, okay, fire against the enemy, fire against the liar, but it was more like pull the truth out of their tongue and chef kiss because why not? It was incredible. So calling those spirits, a white candle cover in deer's tongue. I use olive oil because I'm that person. I just use olive oil for everything. It was chef kiss. Yes.
Okay. I decided to go a little experimental with this one. So the idea I had, this is going to be for someone that's like just really lying and just being a complete just, you know what I mean? So I've decided I'm going to blend together 2 different grimoires. I'm blending together the Lesser Key of Solomon and the Grimoire Verum. I'm going to basically bind their essence with the Solomonic method. I'm putting them in the triangle. I'm not putting demons in the triangle. I'm not putting angel in the triangle. I'm just like, no, fuck you. You're going in the it's triangle time. In that case, I'm also going to, with the Grimoire and Verum, conjure one of the LBA spirits I mentioned to bring about some Goetic demons to actually interrogate and threaten the person. Those 3 that I had in mind are going to be Marbas. He can turn humans into other shapes, gives answers to things hidden or secret. That way it kind of brings that stuff out. I will also bring in, if they decide, if Marbas isn't doing it, Dantalion. He deals with revealing secrets, but also mind control. So just in case, you got to have that on your team. And then Oso being the 3rd one, who deals with both transformation and truthful answers at the same time. So basically, they're being compelled by an angelic-esque triangle with demonic essences just pushing them to stop being the liar that they are. And I thought that could be, if nothing else, pretty fun.
Okay, so I would have either one of two approaches. So one of them would be more of the like herbal approach, like either making a powder or like a tea, like an infusion, and getting them to ingest it because it's supposed to like touch their mouth so that they're spilling the secrets. With that, of course, would make it a little bit more tricky because you, of course, you don't want to accidentally poison someone. But if you are working more with a powder or maybe using a puppet instead of the real person and like feeding the tea to the puppet instead of the person, um, then you don't have to really bother with that. And herbs I would use for that are like either something that is, of course, related to like revealing the truth. So for example, eyebright, I think is a good one. But also something for like clear communication, like lungwort. Maybe something that would like confuse them to like make it easier to pull it out. So something like bittersweet or poppy seeds, but of course, like with bittersweet, yeah, toxic. So don't feed that to someone. Or like typical like lock opening herbs, like as a metaphor to unlock their mouth that is being shut. So something like calendula, for example. So that I would either make into a powder and like put it somewhere where they will get in contact with it, or I would make it into like a tea or something and get that maybe into like something like bread or something where they would eat it, like just a little bit into their food or something, or feed it to a puppet if it is toxic. Um, or I think I've mentioned this in like the first panel already. It's something that you can do with the aspen tree spirit is like go there and basically ask the spirit to make someone do something by like making them tremble out of fear until they do that thing because the aspen has like very flittery leaves, so it's known to be like trembling basically. So you can go and approach the aspen spirit and ask it to make someone else tremble until they do something that you want them to. So you could ask them to, yeah, make them tremble out of fear until they spill the secrets.
So for this one, I liked the idea of creating a mask to represent the person / their lies. So just, you can get those masks from the craft store or whatever. So, using words, symbols, colors, names, date of birth, personal concerns, whatever. You can go ham on this one. Now, you want to bring that to life or enchant it, awaken it, activate it, whatever. So the way I typically do this is with tobacco smoke, using a small cigar, or whiskey. So those are typically blown onto through the mouth. Or you could do like elemental offerings or something like that. And you command, to the object, you are name, whatever the name is, anything I do to you is done to name, for example. And then I would play out a psychodrama. So act out, dance, speak, essentially embody the whole thing. A mirror could be used or not, depending on how you want to do it. And in that psychodrama, a truth revealed gesture should be done. So I don't know, arms splayed or, throwing off the mask or something like that. And then also a gesture, an embodiment of like everyone is now set free, maybe the arms out or something like that. So that's what I would do for that. I also have an incense here. So this could be used as part of that ritual or used as something different. For that, I would use coffee for uncrossing and jinx removal, hyssop for purification. For me, hyssop is like the #1 purification herb. Often when that's used, it is also empowered with Psalm 51, lemon balm, lemongrass, nettle, saltpeter, which is also known as Vesta powder, which I learned from Justin. And that's for the kaboom energy that it has. And I like to, anytime I'm doing an incense, I like to put it in a resin base, just so I think it smells better personally. So I like dragon's blood for this one, which is really good for exorcism, protection, and potency, and a little bit of slippery elm. So slippery elm is usually used to protect against lies and slander. I use it in a little different way in this one. It's to kind of bring out that stuff, you know what I mean? Reveal it. Obviously, that's the thing we're going for. Now, I just wanted to share one herb. I just came across this herb and thought it was so cool. So maybe some of you guys have heard of it. I don't know. I'd never heard of it. It's called shame briar, or cat claw briar. And I think its Latin name is Mimosa natali, something like that. Anyway, its leaves temporarily collapse when you touch them. So you touch it and it's like they faint. So the way you would use it is to find this plant growing somewhere, pass your hand over the leaves. As they faint, you call your enemy's name, and say, be shamed, or, you know, whatever it is you want it to be. So be shamed or reveal the truth or whatever. You do this 6 times, pick those 6 leaves, and then you put 3 in each foot. And the idea is that you're protected from that person's bullshit, essentially, moving forward.
So I would say, as far as, I don't specifically have anything that makes somebody tell the truth, but truth is kind of my jam. Before I started my channel, I had a graphic design business, and it was actually, the name of the business was Veritas Design Group, because, which is the Latin word for truth. I just decided that that was going to be my highest priority, is to always speak the truth, whether people want to hear it or not. So I've thought about this a lot, because I had a friend who was a false friend for many, many years. And when I finally found out the truth about this person, I was shocked that they were able to basically fool me for such a long period of time, because I thought, I'm so intuitive. Truth is my highest value. I have an altar to the goddess Ma'at and truth in my house. I have like multiple altars to her. She's my patron. Like, truth is my jam. How is this person able to fool me for almost 8 years? So I actually purchased a small silver charm, and I have charmed it not to react to anybody else to make them truthful, but to affect me when I am in the presence of somebody speaking falsely. Because, like, my bullshit meter is pretty good already. And I feel like I'm pretty intuitive, and I don't have time for anybody who's, you know, spewing bullshit. But this charm is encharmed to make me literally not hear them. So if I'm in a conversation with someone and they start lying, I'll just find myself drifting, like, oh, I wonder where that bus is going. Oh, it's a nice day, isn't it? And I will just find myself literally not hearing their words. And this is a charm that I have to keep up. It's a protective charm that I have to keep cleansing and doing. It's almost a weekly for me. It's a small charm that has a mirror on it, and it says Veritas on the top of it. So it actually says truth, and it has the symbol of a mirror on it that's like literally reflecting someone's lies back, and they're bouncing off me. So I don't really have a way of making people always speak truthfully to me, but this is my personal protection, my personal magic, so that I just can't hear lies anymore.
Hello. So I think what I would do is I would go to the cards and pull a card to see if I'm right about my gut feeling. And assuming that I am correct and it's holding me up, I would also ask the cards then to show me what is being hidden and why. And then based on that answer, you know, I'd either talk to them if it was appropriate. If not, maybe I would do a spell for revelation. If I could talk to the person, I mean, it just depends on my relationship to them. If I could talk to them, I might actually do a spell with their consent for courage, to encourage them to open up to me.
So I've done a spell like this 3 times, and I have done it 3 different ways. The kind of least nasty way to do it is by petitioning St. Lucy, doing a candle to her with a little bit of fennel and eyebright, maybe, you know, working with like a clarity oil with that, and just kind of asking her to open the eyes of the people around this person. The slightly more nasty ways, I have petitioned a fox spirit to harass someone and like follow them and kind of torment them a little bit up until the point when they tell the truth. The last kind of way was the most effective, and that is actually petitioning and working with a mandrake root to tear up the kind of truth of the person. This tends to be the kind of nastiest way because it works really well, and it works like not usually in ways you expect. I have a history with like whenever I petition mandrake root or whenever I ask for her assistance with things, people tend to kind of like all of the screens fall down. Like I've had people who I was considering learning from be outed as like someone who was not a real was like a fake person. I've had people who have like threatened me kind of come out and like have everyone around them suddenly be like, oh, I don't want to be around you. So Mandrake is definitely a powerful ally because of this kind of Saturnine root and her like associations with not only like being pulled up and screaming. So think of it as like almost like an alert system when you pull something out and she's like, oh, that's not right. But also that kind of Saturn association, that restriction, that limitation, along with that kind of long-term growth. I love Mandrake as a root to be able to work with like long-term abundance and long-term projects, but she's also really amazing for long-term protection and making sure the people around you and the people that stay around you are the people who have your best intentions in mind. Especially when you're trying to like grow a business, grow a circle, grow a community, it's really, really imperative to kind of have that protection in place.
Fantastic answers. I will say for mine, I'll share a little ritual. First, you're going to need some truth oil. So same as Owlvine, I use slippery elm. So I would just take a carrier oil and then infuse it with slippery elm bark. You can add other correspondences like peppermint or whatever corresponds to truth for you. But for me, it's always the slippery elm bark for sure. And then of course you can use that in regular candle spells. You can anoint the candle, add a tag lock of that person's date of birth, name, hair, nails, whatever you can get to get them to tell the truth. What I will say, you can also get a cow's tongue and work with a cow's tongue to tell truth in a ritual as well. It depends on what the lies are, because if I want to get really baneful, I mean, it depends. Is it just a white lie where this person's lying to themselves? Then obviously I'm not going to be doing baneful magic on them. I'm going to try to assist them in other ways. But if somebody's being shitty and really causing a lot of problems to everyone around them, what I will do is I will create a puppet of them. And then I will take that truth oil, put it around their mouth, and then I will take pins and I will say something along the lines of, when you lie, it causes pain. The truth will set you free. And then I pin their head. And then again, I go, when you lie, it causes pain. The truth will set you free. And then I pin their arms, and then I pin their legs. I pin their stomach. I pin every piece of them. So that way it literally causes them pain every fucking time that they lie. And they get to a point where they have destroyed their entire life to where they have to tell the truth. They are forced in that moment to tell the truth and to stop lying. So you can, play around with puppets a little bit. Also, I will say I just recently got back into angelic magic after avoiding it for like decades because of religious trauma and things like that. But I have been working with Archangel Gabriel, which is said to kind of rule over like communication and messages, among other things. So calling in Gabriel, maybe not in a baneful sense, but like in a different type of ritual that's not quite so baneful as pricking someone's body on a puppet, but calling in Archangel Gabriel to kind of assist in having someone tell the truth would be really helpful as well. That was our last prompt. Woo, we did it. Oh my gosh. Yay, you all are so fantastic. Thank you all so much for being here. I think Editing Ivy is going to film a separate introduction that kind of explains the rotational schedule that we're going to be doing in the future and how often we're going to be doing these panels. But if anybody watching this does have ideas for prompts, I do have plenty here, but if you would like to add to my list, feel free to comment down below some sort of magical scenario that you would like us to discuss in the future. And then please check out all of these creators, because I'm going to have all of their links below in the description box. Everybody is so fucking fantastic on various parts of the interwebs. So please go check out all of these creators. So thank you again to all of you here. And that's it. We'll see you all in the next panel. Bye, everybody.